Welcome to another deep dive, listeners. This time, we're going on a journey back to 15th century China to explore a New Year's Eve dilemma through a story from Kathy Burke's Happy New Year. Buckle up as we step into the shoes of Mr. Mayan.
Yup, a teacher whose generosity might cost his family their New Year's feast.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Back then, New Year's Eve in China wasn't just a holiday. It was this huge social event with a lot riding on it. The dinner especially. It was like a grand spectacle meant to show off your prosperity and guarantee good luck in the coming year.
So it's not just about enjoying a good meal with loved ones. There's a whole deeper meaning behind it.
Absolutely. Every dish was carefully chosen, full of symbolism, like the 4 holes they had to have. Whole chicken, duck, fish, and a leg of pork, each representing something important for a good life. For instance, fish was a symbol of abundance, while the duck, represented fidelity.
Wow, so the pressure was on for the hosts to make it look like they were thriving, right? Kind of like a yearly performance for the whole community. Precisely, and that's where Mr. Ye comes in, right? He's been away for a whole year teaching and finally returns home with his earnings, a silver yuan pao, basically his family's entire savings.
He's coming home ready to make sure his family has the best New Year's Eve celebration possible then.
Exactly. But as he's heading home, he runs into Sao. She's in a truly desperate situation.
Oh, this sounds interesting. Tell me more about Sao. What's going on?
Well, her husband is missing, she can't pay her rent, and get this, she's facing the possibility of her daughter being sold to settle the debt. I mean, she's so desperate, she's on the verge of throwing herself into a river.
That's heavy. It really paints a picture of how tough life could be back then. So what does Mr. Ye do when he sees her like that?
He does something pretty unexpected. He decides to give Sao his entire yuan pao. And to make things even more complicated, he makes up a story saying the money is from her missing husband.
Wait, hold on. He gives away all the money meant for his family's New Year's feast to a complete stranger. Was he being overly generous, or did he sense something we're missing?
It's a great question. He could have just walked away, thinking about his own family's needs, right? But something made him help her.
So now Mr. Ye's got a problem. How to feed his family for New Year's with no money left? What does he do?
He tries to borrow some from his neighbors, but this is where the cultural customs of the time come into play.
Meaning it wasn't as simple as asking for help. What was the issue?
Well, remember, it's New Year's Eve, a time when generosity and good fortune should be flowing freely. But there was this huge superstition against lending money during the New Year.
Because it was thought to bring bad luck in the coming year.
Yeah, exactly. People were afraid of ruining their own good fortune, so even though Mr. Ye clearly needed help, his neighbors were hesitant, all because of this old belief.
Wow, what a dilemma. Generosity is expected, but then their superstitions take over. Poor Mr. Ye returns home empty-handed. I can't imagine his wife was too happy about that.
Well, she's understandably worried, right? For her, practicality came before emotions. And so she suggests something a bit, ethically questionable. Borrowing sweet potatoes from a nearby field.
Borrowing? You mean taking them without permission?
Let's just say borrowing for now, but it definitely raises some questions about doing what you have to do when times are tough. This field, by the way, belongs to a widow, Lu Sao, and her young son, Xiao Pao.
And of course, knowing people might be tempted to borrow her sweet potatoes, Lu Sao sends Xiao Pao to guard the field.
Smart move. Now, before going to the field, Mr. Ye decides to go to a nearby temple and seek guidance from Buddha. This shows how important religion and spirituality were in their lives.
So he's looking for divine intervention to justify taking those sweet potatoes. But Xiao Pao is also at the temple, remember, and he overhears Mr. Ye's prayer.
And being the mischievous boy he is, Xiao Pao decides to mess with Mr. Ye's fortune-telling tools, the qin sticks, those wooden sticks you throw to get a yes or no answer from the gods.
Oh no, I bet I know what's coming next.
You got it. Xiao Pao makes sure the sticks give Mr. Ye a big yes, basically giving him divine permission to take the sweet potatoes. And he even helps Mr. Ye dig them up.
Xiao Pao, the little trickster with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
So they get the potatoes. What happens after that?
Well, naturally, Lu Sao finds out that her potatoes are missing. And Xiao Pao, being the honest kid he is, admits that Mr. Ye is the one who took them.
Okay, so there's a confession. We know who the potato thief is. What happens now?
Well, this is where we see how kind Lu Sao really is. I mean, you'd expect her to be angry, right? She's a widow trying to support herself, and now someone's stealing her food, especially during such an important time like New Year's.
You'd think she'd be furious.
Exactly. But instead of getting mad, she shows compassion. Xiaopao tells her the whole story, and she actually decides to help Mr. Ye and his family.
Wow, that's amazing. It shows you the strong sense of community back then, helping each other out even when times were tough.
And it challenges our assumptions about people, doesn't it? Sometimes when things are hard, that's when you see the best side of humanity.
So how does Lu Sao decide to help them?
The next morning, she and Xiaopao go to Mr. Ye's house with a basket of New Year's food. But as they're getting close, they overhear something a bit strange coming from inside.
Uh-oh, what did they hear?
Mr. and Mrs. Ye are having their New Year's Eve dinner, but instead of all the traditional dishes, they're pretending to eat pork when it's actually just sweet potatoes.
That's kind of sad, but I can't help but chuckle a little. They're trying so hard to keep up appearances, even when they're struggling.
It really shows how important it was to save face and follow those social expectations no matter what was going on in their lives. It also shows how strong they are, finding humor and making the best of a bad situation.
Putting on a brave face for the holiday.
Exactly. But their little dinner act is interrupted by another unexpected guest. Aiken Sao and her daughter arrive, super grateful for Mr. Ye's supposed generosity.
Wait, so now everyone's at Mr. Ye's house. This is getting complicated. What happens next?
Just when things couldn't get more awkward, there's another twist. Aiken, the husband who was supposed to be missing, walks in the door.
You're kidding.
Mm-hmm.
What a dramatic entrance. So, the money Mr. Ye gave Aiken Sao wasn't from her husband at all.
Apparently, Aiken never sent any money. He's been off on some adventure, leaving his family to fend for themselves. Can you imagine the look on everyone's faces?
They must have been speechless.
Yeah.
So does Mr. Ye finally get a chance to explain what really happened?
Well, before he can even say a word, Xiaopao jumps in. Remember, he saw everything that happened between Mr. Ye and Aiken Sao.
Oh, right. He's the only one who knows the whole truth.
Exactly. And in his usual straightforward way, Xiaopao spills the beans. He tells everyone how Mr. Ye gave Aiken Sao his yuanpao, sacrificing his own family's New Year's feast to help a stranger.
Wow, that's a powerful moment. All the secrets are out in the open now. How did everyone react?
Aiken and Aiken Sao are overwhelmed with gratitude. They realize just how selfless Mr. Ye was.
I bet they felt a mix of emotions, relieved that their problems were solved, but also guilty knowing what Mr. Ye had to give up.
It's a perfect example of how acts of kindness can spread, impacting more people than you might expect. Even Xiaopao's little prank with the chin sticks played a part in this happy ending.
And Lu Sao. She must have felt even more grateful knowing how Mr. Ye helped Aiken Sao.
Absolutely. It definitely solidified her respect for him and strengthened the bond between their families.
Sweet potato confetti. What a way to end the story.
It's more than just a fun gesture, Those sweet potato skins, they represent something. At first, they were a symbol of Mr. Ye's struggles, his willingness to do whatever it took to feed his family.
Right, like a reminder of the tough spot he was in.
But in that last scene, they become something different. They become a symbol of happiness, of sharing what you have, of a community coming together to celebrate even when things are hard. They show us that even the simplest things can have a deeper meaning.
It's like they're tossing their problems away and welcoming the new year with open arms.
Exactly. It shows how powerful generosity can be. Mr. Ye's act of giving, even though it seemed risky at first, started this whole chain reaction of kindness and compassion. And it brought unexpected good fortune, not just to him, but to everyone around him.
It reminds us that sometimes the hardest choices, the ones that feel like sacrifices, can lead to the best outcomes.
And those outcomes often spread out, affecting people we might not even realize. Like throwing a pebble in a pond, you never know how far those ripples will go.
What's really interesting to me is how the story mixes real life with a touch of magic. You've got the harsh realities of being poor and the pressure of society, but then you have these moments of chance and unexpected good luck.
That mix is what makes the story so captivating and timeless. It speaks to how unpredictable life is, the idea that hope can pop up in the strangest ways, even when things seem dark.
And sometimes those unexpected turns can lead us to more happiness and fulfillment than we ever thought possible.
As we finish our deep dive into Happy New Year, I'm going to leave you with something to think about.
Oh, I love a good question to ponder. What is it?
Imagine yourself in Mr. Ye's shoes, facing that same dilemma. What would you do? Would you put your family's needs first, or would you risk everything to help someone you don't even know?
That's a tough one. It makes you really think about your values and what's important to you. There's no easy answer, but it's definitely worth considering.
Because ultimately, it's not just about the choices we make, it's about the kind of people we want to be.
And how we want to impact the world around us. Happy New Year reminds us that even small acts of kindness can make a big difference, and that sometimes the most selfless choices lead to the greatest rewards. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.